Good morning, everyone. We're out at the cemetery today looking at the stone of Anna Schradi. She's one of the early settlers of Minnesota, born in 1832 and died in 1855. The video here is going to be a class led by John Appel of Atlas Preservation, resetting this stone because it was leaning back heavily.
We're going to take a look at this obelisk, marble obelisk, and observe its condition. It's on a big angle. It's loose. Every element is loose and detached. It's twisted. It's leaning backward badly. It's tremendously sunken. And so it's a whole host of reasons. But the whole thing starts with the settling of the lower base. The lower base is right down here. We don't know how big this is until we dig, but based on the other bases here, you know, it's probably, we could assume at least 8 inches, more likely maybe 10 or 12 inches deep, believe it or not. And it has sunken in the back just about underground. And on the front, you know, we have a couple inches. It's all the way down to what's called the drop wash on it. And then the obelisk itself is not bonded at all. And so this is really, really dangerous. And so the bottom line is not when this is gonna, it's not if, it's when. And so this will fall. I mean, once gravity has done this, there's no, it's inevitable. I mean, and so, but you know, hopefully it's not with anyone around it. And you know, it would fall in a weather event or something on its own would be the best scenario. Another thing we see is a lot of mineral staining on it, it looks like, from the rust. It looks like rust staining to me because it's a white marble. So you know what this could be then? Another possibility. This could be, this stone could have been bleached, cleaned with bleach, and possibly a few times. That will give it a tan, light pink cast to it. It will also increase the rate of deterioration, and it's a common way people would try to clean marble, and some still do today. And it's very ill-advised because it will kill all the growth on it, but it percolates in under the surface, and then it gets lodged in there, and then it causes a lot of deterioration, especially if it was done repeatedly. But so anyway, to inspect this a little more, firm footing, I mean, we won't really have to, but we can see that this is just wobbling everywhere. And it's like, because also right now it's shifted so much that it's, and you can see the staining, and so it's shifted so much that it's cantilevered over the wash, so there's even less actually hitting, and then it's basically like this, it's like hanging on one foot, and it's still hanging on. Turn it sideways, and so, we're going to do one on each side that are opposing each other. Okay. Now, the other thing is, we talked about this. This stone is weathered, and so originally this marble was a smooth surface, and when we take it apart, this surface under here that's always been protected will show you what it originally looked like. And it was much, much smoother. It was polished. I mean, this is not smooth at all. It wasn't much smoother. This is very rough, and originally it was like shiny and polished, and it has weathered due to moisture, but also acidic acid rain is very detrimental to especially marble. And so these are 10-foot 2x4s, and I just get the straightest, lightest 2x4s I can find. When they get wet, they get heavier no matter what. But and then we're going to connect them with I'm just sighting them because if they always warp a little, I'll tend to have the ones on the outside coming in. Anyway, there's one hole drilled in this, and it's a 7/8 inch hole I drill with a spade bit. That's 2 1/4 inches center approximately from the end of it, and then I elongate it, I widen it out a little bit, and then this is a 3/4 inch threaded rod and just some connecting links. These are not. They could be different. These work well, but I designed this in like about 25 years ago, and I needed it, and then it worked so well I started using it more and more. And the thing is, of its low cost and portability, it's not obviously OSHA approved. We do sell an OSHA approved tripod. A bunch of them. The most popular one is the 1-ton aluminum that has telescopic legs that extend out. I think you guys worked with those. The company that makes those is Wallace out of Philadelphia area. Wallace crane. Anyway, what I'm going to do first is just pick this thing up and just see. I'm going to see what the legs do. So with a tripod like this, you can only go as far as the legs. And right now I have it way vertical intentionally. It's going to be strongest that way. So before you do any lifting with a tripod, you should always sight it and make sure. In this design tripod now, it's obstructed. It's an obstructed view from that side due to the obelisk being so tall. Just watch your step. Looks actually really symmetrical. So I just want to make sure that everything, there's going to be the most weight down here for sure on the low side of the hill. So. So what we're going to do is move it further away. On this thing, we got to clean this with water and a wire brush. And then the next thing is we got to dig around this. So it's moving quite easily, which is a good thing. And so, keep digging. We don't really have to, actually, at this point. So what we can do is we can just get some gravel under there now, and some sand and gravel. Take your time. So
what is the base material frequently made out of?
So we see cracking in this base, and that's a great question. And so the thing is, the lower bases in this era, around late 1800s into the early 1900s, and so regional, locally available base material was often used. And so, for example, in Connecticut, there's a tremendous amount of sandstone. So a lot of the earlier bases are sandstone. And so, like in other, like in Massachusetts had a lot of early granite, and I work on a lot of stone. So when this stone was formed, it was formed in layers, and it's like layers of sediment combined with mineral binders. And so that's, unfortunately, sometimes there's weak layers, and some stones have a likelihood to delaminate like that. And so, fortunately, the base was created in the geological orientation so that the compression of the upper weight is going to keep it together, and that's the way building stones should be made. But when you use a softer stone like that for like other elements like that project past the building, then you have issues with that delamination, especially when you're doing all the ornamental aspects. Stand proud of the surface, cornices, and okay, so this, we want to get really good compaction under there, otherwise it'll settle when it gets wet. So we don't want just a ring of gravel, we want it fully packed underneath. So you use a lot of gravel when you raise things, or crushed stone. Different. Now the last thing is alignment, before we regrade and everything. Yeah. So come down here and look down the road. so that far end's got to go forward, so we're going to use that bar again. And I'll show you probably the easiest way. I'm going to plant this down here, the point side. Best to put this away from you when you're pushing. Want to get low down here, real low, and then we can push it.
Oh, there you go. Longer spaces now?
Yeah, they're pretty much the same. I mean, it's just contact points. They could be about 3/4 of an inch. So what we're gonna, so we have spacers in the corners. They're 1/8 inch thick. Most modern monuments, they also use 1/8 inch, but they tend to use plastic spacers. And plastic spacers are really hard and they have no give. And the thing about lead is it'll dig in and it'll, if the bond even fails, the lead helps it stop from moving. That's why. So we're gonna put some at 4 contact points and we'll save some for the top piece. This is pretty slow setting. It's gonna be temperature dependent, but we should have like usually about at least 20 minutes, a half-hour working time. So it's not like gonna be a fast set. You can see it's still, the black is harder to see the color change, but I'm only using black because it's structural. The more common color is an off-white. And then we just trim it. And I'll let you guys do this. I'll just do one side here in front of it. So we just trim it like this. And then we can reuse this. If you want to go ahead and trim it. Yep. And now we use a stainless brush because we're on the mating surface and we're never going to see this again. Kind of wobbly. It's just starting to get hot, which it's an exothermic reaction. It releases heat because it's a chemical reaction when it cures. So it'll get hot as it's curing. So we're going to then need the monument setting compound on the outside after. So if we pull this just thin enough so it slides under, then it is going to squeeze out really nicely. So we need the compound will come in last. And then also at the end, we're going to recut. You see the additional pressure was on this lower base, even though I tried to seat it. Once we put that, 1,000 pounds on top, I'll do the math again on that.
So, yep.
And so yeah, the epoxy putty is what we're using in this case. It's all good.
Oh, that's all right.
And yep, absolutely. And so actually on something like this, probably be easiest to set it. It's going to want to slide a little. The first, actually, maybe I'll do. I'm gonna step it down. Is what I'm gonna do because of the height. And so just watch what I'm gonna come down. Okay, what I'm going to do, and just watch the way I do it. This is all me, just my shoulder. Okay, I'm going to come down onto a 1/4 inch. I'm coming from a 1/2 to a 1/4, and I'm doing that so it's not as dramatic, and so it doesn't want to slide as much, and it doesn't start losing materials. Okay, so now I'm going to come off of that one. Okay, kids, don't try this at home alone. Okay. Now I'm going to come all the way back, okay, and now I still have one more side, and see the way it wants to slide, and I don't have to do it with this technique. So let me anyway. I'll just foot it and go ahead and you do it. So just go ahead and pull that and put the compound under quickly, please. Yep, under. Okay, move your hands. Okay. Okay, that's it. Now we can float it back a little. We always want to do this low. And it looks pretty good all around. We'll trim it and then we can fine tune it, because it's hard to see the wash right now. So, just saved this. Woo! It seems like it's leaning back right now. That's weird.
That's what I was.
I think it's dirt. Yeah, I think that's just
No, there's something going on here. It's not seated. Is a spacer missing or something?
another spacer. Or...
Yeah, we'll try, or I could double one up. It needs something here for sure. It looks bigger. It looks like that. I'm not sure what's going on here. It's not flat on the bottom. It's not necessarily cut. I mean, right. This base might have been keyed to fit this. Anyway, we can compensate and just we could put. Yeah, we'll fix it. So I'll show you how we can fix it.
Yeah.
So we'll take a lead. We'll roll it over. We can fix anything. I mean, so
Well, this is where the amateurs
Well-
and the pros differ.
we take. I have number 3 with me, but I just basically turned this into a number 4 because I rolled it over and doubled it. It looks like it has to go this way certainly, so I'm going to come in like this. Okay, that already is way better. Now remember, it's going to harden when all that epoxy putty hardens. So. Okay, that's going to tighten it right up. Looks much better now.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got to look at them at the end. You got to make sure it looks good, and you have to make sure it's not moving. I mean, because you know, a more conventional monument, a granite monument, something that is, you know, not as worn. It's usually less fussy. It's generally going to go right together. But something like that's weathered and stuff like this, it could take a little more finesse. Okay, so it should be pretty tight now when I got that let in.